We have 511 secondary schools, for instance.
In Ogun State.
Yes, and 1,565 primary schools. But is it possible for us to take all the over 2,000 schools, primary and secondary schools together, to take them to this level we want? I call it the gold standard in education. How do we get there? We then decide to do something that looks like a pilot by taking these 42, cutting across the 4 divisions in Ogun State, such that we can actually take them to that level and say this is where we want all our schools to be. So in about 1-2 years, we see the schools in that level, and then there will be models to the other schools. So the flagship schools are actually supposed to be the beacon schools or the model schools, or you like call them Ivy League schools and so on in Ogun State. So the intention is that by the time we finish, by the end of the tenure of this administration by God's grace, we are hoping that even all the schools in Ogun State will be flagship schools for other schools in Nigeria, and they will be models to other schools in Nigeria. So we have started this initiative with these 42, and then we are working tirelessly to ensure that we get quality teachers in the school. We have them there. Then the entrance, that is the admission into the school, is what we should look at, what I say, flagship school online application. The Universal Basic Education law says that all students have the opportunity of being in school for the first 9 years of their education. So that means you will not deny any child opportunity to go to secondary school. So when they finish after primary school, you take all of them, you place them. That's what we call it, it's a placement. You place all of them in secondary schools. But these flagship schools are schools that you have to indicate that you want to go to those schools. And that's why we introduce a collection of admissions forms. So you go online and obtain admission form to go into these 42 flagship schools. So the fact that you are going to collect application form and sit for screening tests and then obtain the minimum cutoff point into each of these schools, depending on the school, because the schools are also in categories. So if you say you want to go to Abayomi Grammar School, the cutoff point for Abayomi Grammar School this year happened to be 52 marks. So if you don't get 52%, you cannot enter Abayomi Grammar School. If you get 51, you won't enter. So for African Church Grammar School, it is 55 or 56 or so, 55.
Yes.
Now, it's not a matter of looking at it and say Abayomi Grammar School is an old school, so let's make it 60. No. It was based on performance, and this was actually done online. It was automated. So what we ensured was that anybody that didn't score the merit mark to go into any of those schools will not enter the school. So we started with that, and also we are using that now through the automation to ensure that population in our schools are also decongested. So there is no way you can just decongest and say you legislate and say you don't want more than 40 in the class or 60 in the class from this year.
And the rest will go.
Are they going to go? So what we have done is to do a 3-year plan. So now if you go to any of the flagship schools, you won't find any classroom where you have a class teacher standing in front of more than 60 students in any of the flagship schools in the GS1. That is because we cannot do it in all the classes. The GS1 is the class 1. Yes, 40 is the ideal. Yes, 40 is the ideal. But when we try to use 40, we said if you use 40 this year, you will need to make provision for a lot of students, a lot of learners. So we use 60 this year. The intention is over the 3 years, we'll be reducing it. Well, 60 is the maximum. In some of those schools, what you find there is 40, some you find 45, but there is no school you will find 61. That's what we did. Because we made it 40, we now realize that there were some students that will be repeating for one reason or the other. Maybe they didn't make it to SS and GS2. So we have to make provision for them beyond the 40 that was there. And then there are learners that will come from other schools on transfer. So we said, okay, because of maybe parents shifting from one place to the other. But we have even gone beyond that now to say that no more transfer into flagship schools. Because the problem is, if you say your maximum is 60 and people come on transfer, before you know what is happening, the number will now go up. So to make sure the number doesn't go up, that it can only go down, is to say we won't allow transfer into flagship school. So if you want to enter flagship school, you will enter from GS1 and then stay on till because this year is GS1, that's why we allowed those transfers. But from next year now, there won't be any transfer into any of the schools. And even the transfer we mentioned is actually for for the senior classes, not even for GS1, so that our calculation was right, because we sat down, look at the number of classes in each of the schools. If you tell me in your school you have 10 classes for GS1, then I will give you maximum of 600 learners. So you get between 400 and 600. So that is the first major step you can take to decongestion, because there is no way you can legislate decongestion and say henceforth no school should have more than 40 in our class. Then you have to build.
Right.
You have to build more classrooms. But we are not going to be able to build more classrooms immediately now that we have that policy. But we now have a 3-year plan to build more classrooms and also to increase the number of schools. So you are either building more classrooms or you are increasing the number of schools. You are having new schools where you can take these learners to. And don't forget that in taking the learners to schools, you have to consider their location. If you move learners that are living in Okelewo, you now take them to maybe Owode from Abeokuta, then you won't, definitely some of them will not go unless there is boarding houses. And not everybody will want their learners to, their children to be in boarding houses. So it's a whole lot of things taken together. So as you are making policies to revitalize or to change something, you also want to do it with a lot of other factors that you put into it. So that's what we have done. So
just a quick question there. With that new modification, what is the ratio of students to teachers?
That is what we mean. That's what it means now is that one teacher to maximum of 60.
That's a lot.
Our target is to have one teacher to 40 students. No, it's okay. It's normal. It's normal. You said what? Yeah, it's 35-40. It's 35-40. Primarily, you can talk of 30-35. At secondary, 40. You see, it is for me. For me, I can tell you. There are things you put in the paper. I can tell you, for a teacher to take between 40 and 60. It is not. We have situations in some schools, even in some other states, where you have students to one teacher to about maybe 120 or 150 and so. That is definitely going to be.
I've heard, yeah.
Yes. So that is not acceptable. For me, how is a teacher going to be effective?
Yep.
That a teacher can handle 40 learners in the class, even 50 learners a teacher can handle. That is still okay, because it's also a function of how many periods does this teacher have. Because for me, I'm a mathematician. We talk of sample space.
Right.
If I tell you the sample space of tossing a coin 4 times, it's the same thing as the sample space of tossing 4 coins once. If you toss a coin 4 times, the first time you have head or tail, the second time head or tail, the third head or tail, and you will have 4 heads, 4 tails. But if I toss 4 coins once, I'm either going to have all the 4 as head or tail and so like that. So what I'm trying to say is that it's also a function of how many periods also you give to the teachers. So you want to factor all these things together. It's not just the issue of giving them just 20 in the class or something. You also want to, then there is also need for monitoring. Monitoring and evaluation is also part of it. So all these are being taken together in getting us to this desired level we are talking about. So the Adopt a School program is something we take very seriously, because we know government alone
cannot do it. Yes.
So we need the support of all and sundry for us to get to where we are going. So that will fast track whatever policy government has. 1 or 2 people have done things here. We have one guy from the US that came and turned the old primary school into something else. When you see that school, if you are blindfolded and they just drop you in the school, you just say, when did you bring me to US without visa? That is how the school, the standard of that school, somewhere in my primary school in Yagowe. So, and I guess that is the type of thing you have in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Simawa High School spoke about, I understand they have 849 learners in junior school, and then they have about 695 in the senior school. It's not one of the flagship schools, quite all right, but for us, we are working systematically on getting more teachers in the system. So governor approved employment of 5,000. We have done the first 1,000. The second 1,000 is what he has just approved that we are working on now. So the intention is to inject 5,000 now. But I want to tell you that this is the first time now in the past 10 years that any administration will be injecting new teachers into schools. So it is not the fault of this administration.
That's commendable.
But this administration has seen its problem as part of the emergency it declared. It started with rehabilitation of schools, injection of more funds into schools, giving running costs to head teachers to manage schools, giving examination logistics, reviewing the process of writing examination, introducing optical mark recognition into examination writing, setting up examination processing and data processing unit in the Ministry of Education, handling the gamut of, we have about almost 2 million that we talk about. So, you see, this issue is something that should not be emphasized. When you are talking of bringing in change into the system, it should be based on facts and figures, research and result of, things that have happened in the past that you have taken note of, and then look at the appropriate way to attack it and then inject innovations. And that is what we're doing. We've been here since morning. This is management meeting. We've been here since morning looking at all our policies, reviewing some of them. For instance, we have decided we are introducing what we call the SBMC into secondary schools. In Ogun State, we have SBMC in the primary schools. That is the school-based management committee. It's like a board of governors to help in managing the schools. So we don't have it in secondary school. So we, as part of steps we have taken to review issue of discipline, issue of all these behaviors that we have noticed in schools, SBMC is to come on board. We have also introduced what we call the parents club, apart from the PTA. We have also introduced what we call signing of the undertaking. The undertaking at the beginning of the year was signed by every parent. Each parent will come to school to sign on behalf of his ward. If you don't sign, the child cannot be in school. And that undertaking is working. If you go around Ogun State now, you won't find our learners outside. Before, you can find learners outside. Now you won't find our learners roaming about the streets during the period of 8 and 2, because they know that we have introduced minimum of 70% attendance for you to be able to qualify to write end of term examination, and then also to write external examination like SSC, NECO, or YE. So these are some of the initiatives we have brought up. And then His Excellency is also passionate about ensuring that this process of bringing all the schools in terms of buildings, infrastructure to the desired level, which is what made him to want to launch the Education Trust Fund, because after injecting money, building and rehabilitating, we still have so many schools. And if we go at the way we are going, we will never be able to make the desired impact. So when the fund is launched, then we can now have, through the management that will be put in place, to have what we call annual intervention in all our schools. In other words, it's not a matter of a facade allocation to schools or what I call blind shots. Just wake up and say, okay, go and give us one building in Simawa. Oh, okay, tomorrow go and do one at Ogun State High School. Or not based on it. This one will be in a planned manner. Every school will have something annually. So no matter how small, if it is just 2 million naira you allocate to each school annually, then you decide on what you use that 2 million for in that school. Many of the schools that we have, not only here, anywhere in Nigeria mentioned, immediately they establish the school, that is the end. Nothing will come again until they tell you that the school roof has been blown up or something, and that one will take so many years before they come back and do that. So we don't want that, and that's why we want to actually have this systematic approach to it, so that annual intervention will come to schools, and then we also have what we call the special interventions from that fund. The special intervention will be targeted at certain schools in each division on an annual basis, and it will be going like that. I'm sure if we implement the Education Trust Fund properly, the way we want to implement it, irrespective of which administration, because this thing should not be political, irrespective of which administration is there, you will see that in 10 years, if you come back to Ogun State schools, you will see remarkable improvement. And that is why this is to be backed by law. We have actually perfected the bill. The bill has actually been looked into by the Attorney General. It's going to ESCO, and from there to House of Assembly, so that it's something of law. It's not a matter of which administration is in place. So what we are doing is beyond the life of this administration. We are actually trying to bring in place things that will make Ogun State to continue to be in the leadership position it used to be in everything, not only in education. And this is the education capital of Nigeria. This is where education started, and this is where we have the highest number of tertiary institutions in Ogun State, in Nigeria, and you can go on and on. In terms of achievement of Nigeria, you cannot take out Ogun State. There's no way you want to mention that, even in the political sphere. So that is why, for us, you coming around talking about this is, something we have actually always spoken about, encouraging people to come around. You can adopt the school entirely and turn it around. You can do part if you cannot do everything. If it's just one classroom you want to intervene and do something about it, so be it. If it is a block, fine. If it's just furniture you want to supply, you can do that.
Question, since we're speaking on record, because
Yes.
you have your camera,
Yes.
I have mine.
Yeah.
What is the structure of the adopted school? What is the framework that you guys currently have?
Yes.
To see how we can fit into that?
That is exactly what I'm saying. That depending on what you come for, as we don't straitjacket you.
Okay.
You're not straitjacketed by saying you have to do this or you have to do that. If you're adopting a program, adopting a school, that's like a broad term, because adopting might mean taking over the entire thing, and you want to actually, like I told you, somebody came into a school, and I would say he rebuilt the school, because every building in the school was actually refurbished. Everything, including furniture, including everything,
Yes, sir.
including the sports field.
Right.
Even also put, I think, basketball pitch or something. So,
What school is that school we should
it's
visit?
in Omodumari, it's a primary school.
Agowe.
Agowe, yes. You can go there and see that.
We
school.
would like to see that.
Yes, that is one. So, then you can decide that all you want to do in this adoption program is to just take 1 or 2 or 3 classrooms, and you want to actually make those ones sort of model that other people can come and say this is how our classrooms should be in schools in Ogun State, depending on the funding available to you.
Right.
You can decide that you are going to intervene in the area of sports. That what you want is to give them good sporting facilities in the school. I want to build a pavilion, and, So you can decide, it's going to be laboratories.
Yeah.
Build laboratories, physics, chemistry, biology laboratories, and equip those ones to standard. What standard? You can have digital laboratories, you can have what you call central laboratory. You can then say it is library.
Technology, we're interested
that
in
you want to
technology.
intervene in. So we are not straitjacketing you. It's actually open. Come around, we talk about what you want to do, because it's a function of the funds available.
Right.
And we're not going to say because you want to intervene, we have to give you anything that will be like exuberances for what you want to do.
Right.
So it's actually open. We are open to discussion, and we can look at the area of intervention, and we can advise. Okay, you can, even if it's possible for you not to have any school in mind, we can actually give you a list of schools that you visit and say this is where I want to be. It doesn't have to be a school that you have connection with.
Right.
Omoidumari happened to be the school that guy attended,
Right.
primary school.
That's
Decided, because of that attachment, to say, I want to intervene in this school. So it might just be any school for that matter. It might be a school in your environment. It might be a school maybe in your friend's place, or your maybe spouse's place, or whatever.
Right.
So it's actually free, and you have opportunity to discuss with us the terms of maybe if I can use the word agreement.
Thank you. So what would be the next phase for us? Well, we have a large team. This is just, these are the people on the ground here. And again, we've been trying to do this for 3 years. So what do you recommend we do next? For the school in Simawa, again, as an example, they wouldn't, and rightly so, they wouldn't allow us to really come in and do anything. We're just kind of doing like basic research. So in order for us to actually implement our first phase, what should be the next step for us?
Now we have come here, we have spoken.
Yeah.
You want to actually do a proper maybe formalization of your intention.
Exactly. Okay.
And you are the one, after the visit, probably you have visited the place,
Right.
or you want to visit, even if you want our team to follow you, and then you look at it and then
Right.
give suggestions and so on, then you tell us the level of intervention you want to make.
Right.
If it is full,
Yeah, it's in our proposal, yeah.
yes. So we'll be able to advise you.
Yeah.
Okay, if this is all you want to, we might even advise you to go about it this way. for better results. But it's still
We're
subject
open.
to, I mean, just give me some,
Yeah.
there are a lot of options available.
We're open to, you know, for the conversation to see
because
what.
there are ways you can do things and spend money and you have impact.
Right.
And if you don't spend it the way it should be spent, it may not have the desired impact. So we may be, as people in the cold face, we can actually give you idea of how to go about some of the things you want to do. So you just, if you bring in your write-up, your proposal,
Yeah.
this is what we want to do. We look at it. If it is okay, we just say it's okay that way, you know, as it is. So, or with some modifications,
Okay.
which we will tell you, and then you look at those modifications. If it's fine with you, you just go ahead. You are home. I mean, you can actually start keep the ground running. So that is the way it goes.